welcome back to the podcast. Okay, we've got a little bit different of a setup here because I decided to move around my lights a little bit. So let me know how you feel about this. I want to get another one because it is just so dark in the background. I feel like it's just too dark. I'm also recording this when it is completely dark outside, so that may be part of the issue. But yeah, give me feedback. I feel like I like this a little bit better. It feels a little bit more clear, and it just like, I don't know, it feels cozy. I like it. I like her. Okay. Anyways, so we're going to be talking today about some books that I feel like have really changed my life. We're going to be talking about some books that I feel like have really changed my life. I'm going to first, before saying any of this, make sure to talk about the fact that I already had a very open mindset on life before reading these. But if you follow the podcast, then you probably do too, because that's what we talk about here. So great, right? Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go through them, no particular order, just, yeah, whatever. Anyways, first one I grabbed is Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you're on the YouTube, you can see the cover of it. If you're on the podcast, look it up. But yeah, so I'm going to be completely honest. This is the one book out of my pile that I grabbed that I haven't actually completely read. I couldn't read the full thing through in one sitting or like in an easy amount of time because it is so in-depth. And I, having the rumination OCD tendencies that I have, could not sit through this entire thing without really overthinking it. So that is one thing first. If you tend to overthink things, I still recommend reading it, but just read them a lot slower. I usually read self-help books like one chapter at a time, and then I let myself process it for a while before reading the next chapter. So no, I have not finished this. I read more than half of it actually. Maybe a year ago, and then I just haven't finished it since then. Because I have to be in the right mood. It just hasn't come up, and that's okay. Anyways, this book though is absolutely incredible because I have always looked at habits in terms of like, oh, you have to be actively doing something, right? And this book, from as much as I have read from it, I have been absolutely astonished at how much sense this makes. The book looks at it in a very, like, I would say, my grandma started FaceTiming me. Hi, Grandma. I know you're watching this, so. This book, I would say, is like maybe a little bit more for the analytical brain, but not like only analytical brains can read it, right? It just looks at things a little bit more of like a cause and effect type of way of doing things, which is why I love it, because it looks at things saying, instead of being like, oh, hey, you know, you're trying to build a habit, so you just have to do it every day, which yes, you do, right? Instead of being like, okay, you're trying to build a habit, then just do it, you know? It looks at maybe the fact that you are not completing or accomplishing your habits that you're trying to build is not because of the fact that you can't, or you're lazy, or you don't have motivation, but it's about the fact that you haven't set yourself up for it correctly. So I guess one of the biggest things that I have, I think, put into my own life from reading this book is making sure to set myself up for success. If I want to have the habit of eating healthy food, how am I going to set myself up for success? Well, maybe that means not having as much junk food in the house. You know, maybe that means having more fruits and vegetables in the house. So for example, when I go home, my Poppy has such a sweet tooth. He loves his desserts. But that means that when I go to visit my family, there are constantly desserts in the house, and he has really good, like, he's just like a different, like, he's just special. I don't know how he does it, but he is so good at not just eating them because they're there. I, on the other hand, and my mom as well, and most other people are gonna, if it's there, you're gonna be more tempted to eat it, and you might end up eating it even if you didn't want it, right? So what I do in my place is I either try not to buy junk food, or if I do, I put it in a different area. So I have like one area that is for like my cooking stuff, my healthy snacks, everything like that. And then I have a whole other area that is like one drawer for other like snacky type things that aren't as healthy, right? And it's in a place where I don't necessarily go all the time, or I just don't use that drawer as much. So when it's out of sight, it's out of mind, so I'm setting myself up for success by not putting them there. When I'm going through a drawer of stuff and I'm like, oh, I don't want to make food, and then I'm like, oh, hey, here's a box of mac and cheese, or like, oh, hey, here's a box of I don't know what, or here's some chips or something. I have to go through the work to make that food, or I could just grab the chips. So if I have them in a different drawer, I don't even like remember that they're there. And at first you might have those cravings, right? And I do get my cravings and stuff, but eventually it's like I just get into the habit of not eating them. And when I see them, or like when I'm really in the mood for them, I'll eat them. Like I'm not trying to tell myself I can't, but like this is just one of these things from this book that I just learned so well, is that it's about how you set yourself up for success rather than your actual motivation to do it. Motivation does not last. Like, I do not have the motivation. I didn't have actually the motivation to do this video, but now that I'm doing it, I'm having fun. Like, motivation is not going to be permanent. It's not going to be there forever. But you can set yourself up for success, and that changes a lot. So my big ramble on that book is over. And the next one I wanted to talk about is a little bit different. It is Heart Talk by Cleo Wade. This is one that was recommended to me by actually someone on Instagram. Her name is Brittany Layball. I will link her in the description if I remember, because she's amazing. I have been following her for years, and there's like maybe 2 people on Instagram that I've actually consistently followed for years, and she is one of them, because I don't know, I have a really, like I said, y'all know that I have a bad time with Instagram and comparison and stuff. So I think there's 2 people I've consistently followed, and she is one of them. So I already knew this was going to be a good book because she recommended it, but I started reading it, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is a little bit more of like the poetry type of books. If you're not into that, just like skip to the next one, because sorry, you guys. But it is a little bit of like poetry, and then also like allowing yourself to kind of understand that. So it's like a book of just looking at like, how our heart heals and how our heart processes things, and your daily inspiration, your pep talks, all of that kind of thing. With also like, she has little annotations in it, which I love. Like, it's so cute. And then, not this page, but there's some pages with some poetry and stuff in it. So it's like almost like a journal entry, which I really enjoy. I feel like it's kind of like a journal entry. It's like watching someone spill their heart out onto paper. And that is the type of thing that like gets me every time. That is like the reason I have this podcast, because I love just like looking into people's souls, which sounds a little creepy now that I say it, but like looking in to see like, who is someone deep down? What is like, how do they think, and just that is always so inspiring to see the different ways that people think, because it always makes you think. So this is like my favorite. Like, I'll read just a few pages before bed, or when I just need a little bit of a pick-me-up. So again, this one is one that I kind of go through as time goes on, and I've reread like the beginning of it so many times too, because it's also one of those things that it kind of changes based on wherever you are in life at the moment. Like I definitely read this a few years ago and interpreted it very differently than I would now if I were to read the full thing. So I just really love this one. Okay, the next one is also one that was recommended by someone online. The other one person on Instagram that I have continuously followed. The one who recommended this to me is Sam Conway. I will also link her Instagram if I remember. And this book is absolutely incredible. This book is Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and Glennon Doyle has become one of my favorite human beings in the world. It would be my dream to be on her podcast someday. I hope it comes true, but who knows if it will. And this book is just absolutely beautiful. It's a memoir about her experience in parenting and in coming out and meeting her wife. And it is the most beautiful thing I have ever read. I could read it over and over and over again. It is like all just life thoughts of like battling with, different social things, battling with just understanding yourself, really looking back at your life and being like, this is what I learned from this one particular situation, right? Like, you guys, it's just absolutely incredible. Like, it is like this podcast in a book. I really want to write a book inspired by this, because I am just, as we know, a big thinker. And that is kind of why the podcast became a thing, is just because I think so much and I just really love this. If you can't see, I have like a bunch of annotations all over this. I like highlighted so much of it too. Like, this is, oh God, it's such an incredible book. And Glennon Doyle is one of the most incredible human beings. She is so honest online. She is so like, it reminds me that I'm human. This book reminds me that I'm human and that it's okay to be human. So the fact that you're listening to this episode and hopefully a listener of this podcast, I can guarantee that you will absolutely love this book. And then the final book, which is a little bit different from the rest of the books. And I decided to include it because it has helped me feel a lot more comfortable and stable with where I am in life. And this book is Girls That Invest. So I have to be completely honest here. When I first saw this book, I saw it so many different places, so many different times, and I refused to read it because of how gendered the cover felt. So that is my one critique of this book, is I hate that it's pink, you guys. I really, really hate that it's pink. And for some people that might be great. Like, it looks like I might like pink, and I like it for the vibe of this video, but like, I'm not a color person. But like, just the fact that it says girls on it, and then it's also pink, just feels a little bit like, I don't know, it just rubs me in the wrong direction. But then when I read it, that went away, and I don't care what the cover looks like anymore. Like, I do not care at all. Yes, I judged the book by its cover. No, I should not have. Yes, if they could change it, I would tell them they absolutely need to. But it is still an amazing, amazing book. And so this book is all about, yes, investing, but also just, it is a incredible starting point for financial literacy. And honestly, like, I would recommend this to so many people. If you look at the reviews in Goodreads, it's like a bunch of guys that say like, okay, I'm a guy and I read this book and it was the first time that I actually felt like I had financial literacy and understood the stock market. Like, this is incredible. It's not dumbed down because it's like, oh, it's girls that are doing this. No, it is so empowering, and it just made me feel so much more comfortable with money. It changed my money mindset completely. It made me feel like I actually have control over my money and about how I don't get scared or worried about money anymore like I used to. And it also really solidified my understanding of the stock market. So I've talked about this before. I have an investing episode already. It's not on YouTube. Is it on YouTube? I don't think it's on YouTube. And so I was already investing when I read this book, but I didn't really understand very much of what I was doing. I only understood like the surface level of it. And being an econ major, I still felt like I wasn't learning enough about just like financial literacy in general. So I really decided to just pick up this book and try it out. This book made me understand where I am actually investing in and why and how it's helpful, and like the whole the whole aspect of it, I was really scared to invest. Like, I was doing it, but I didn't want to change anything. I didn't want to mess with anything because I was afraid of losing money or the risk that comes with it. And this book, like, I feel totally confident in the way that I spend my money and the way that I put it in the stock market and where I'm putting it and all of this. Like, it's incredible. It is so incredible. So this book I am including in here because it is different than just like a self-help book, right? But it is a book that helped myself. It did help me a lot. And it really made me feel just more confident and comfortable in my life. So I definitely recommend this book. And I'd have to say this and Untamed are probably, if you only read 1 or 2 books from this episode, please let it be one of these, because these 2 books have absolutely changed my life. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.